Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo, and in this episode we are going to look at my top 10 solo games from a tactical standpoint. So what I mean by tactical is these are games that when you sit down to play them, you won't necessarily have one strategy over another strategy over another strategy you'll choose at the beginning of the game. You're going to make specific choices based on how the game goes, how the board kind of evolves, and it's more or less lots of shorter term decisions versus longer term strategy where you can sit down and say, I'm going to try the X strategy or the Y strategy or the Z strategy. So these games are, as far as I'm concerned, some of the best games on the market solo wise. And let's start off with my number 10. My number 10 is going to be Welcome to the Moon. This little box, this little tactical joy of a box, has 8 different scenarios in there where you are basically playing the Welcome to series, which is you draw 3 cards and they have fronts and backs, and what you do is based, and which choices you make is highly based on the cards that come up. Now, you do have a plan in this game, but you can't necessarily rely heavily on that plan to pan out because the cards are very tactical, and so you always have to make the best choice you can based on what the cards show. Now, what's really awesome about this game versus the other Welcome to series is that this game has a full campaign inside that can be replayed, that has a narrative and all sorts of good stuff. So from a standpoint of the Welcome to series, it's fantastic, I think. And it literally has, like I said, there's 8 different games in here, okay? They all follow the same basic rule structure, so to speak, but they're 8 different boards and things that have different ways to score and different things you're supposed to do. So it's just a great value. Very good if you like the kind of flip and right series games out there. This one is awesome. Okay, number 9. Number 9 is one of my favorite Stefan Feld games, probably my favorite Stefan Feld game, honestly, and that is Bonfire. I've talked about Bonfire before. This game is very difficult to win solo. I don't think I've ever done it, but it is a tactical masterpiece. And what you're trying to do in this game is a little bit of everything, but of course, when you can do it in the best way possible, you can score the best way possible. And it is a weird theme. It is. You're basically moving your guys on this board in lots of different ways to try to build this series of bonfires with portals and with matching symbols and all sorts of stuff. It's a very difficult game, in all honesty, to describe to someone who's never played it, but it is a real tactical joy. And the reason being is because there's just so much that you can try to do in the game that makes it fun. And you know what you want to do, but to get it done is hard. The choices and how to do it and which actions to play and how to make it work and all that stuff is just wraps into one massive puzzle. And I really enjoy this game. I've had it for years. The expansion adds to it a little bit, doesn't make it like that much better, to be honest, but I do like the game, whether it's expansion or not, a lot. And so that would be my number 9 choice. All right, number 8. Number 8 is one of my favorite Uwe Rosenberg tactical experiences, and that is Iranian Canal. Now, normally, Uwe Rosenberg games, to me, are very strategic. At least I'm talking about like the big box games, not the polynomial games. But in this game, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it is highly based on the cards that come up and in play. There's not a ton of actions you take. What is huge about this game is how you put these different cards together in the orientations, how you surround them with different things, how you can activate them once, then activate them again. It is a tactical masterpiece. And there are many decks that you can buy to improve on the experience and add to it. And I think each of them is very interesting and adds another flavor and element to the game. It's just a great game. And if you can find a copy of it that's outstanding, I think it's one of the best tactical solo games out there. And you can play it over and over and really unlock some amazing, there's a lot of combination of cards, but it's not really like, I wouldn't say it's a combo-y kind of game like that. Really, it's just about how you're putting together your board to get the most out of each card and then really set yourself up for some Really strong scores. So really like that one. Very fun. Lots of replayability if you have a couple of different decks in there, and a lot to just try to optimize and make the best. All right, so that was 8. Now, 7. 7, I would say it could be either this game or the other, and it's just about your preference. But I'm going to give 7 to the 3rd edition of Arkham Horror, okay? And I could have also said Eldritch Horde, pardon me. But I like Arkham Horror a little bit better because it takes all the best of the mechanics from a lot of these games and has really kind of combined them into, I think, the most fun package. This game in particular is all about trying to figure out how to make the tactical puzzle work. And the way it goes is you're going to choose, kind of like a scenario to play. That scenario puts in different things, and then, you are trying to survive and accomplish the scenario. But it's not really a strategic situation at all. Like, you're going to do lots of tactical things. Go here to try to get these things. Go there to try to get that. Stop this disaster before it gets too much out of control. Figure out how to deal with these enemies before they crawl all over you and destroy you. Just a ton of good stuff. And there's a lot of expansions for that game. So if you like it, you can really flush it out with an awful lot of additional content. I find that even, just the base game will give you an awful lot of enjoyment because it is so hard. But if you add 1 or 2 more expansions in there, it really flushes out all those decks so that you really don't know what's coming next. And so I do think it's one of those games where you probably need to toss in at least 1 expansion after a little while just to give yourself more cards to go through. But a really good, fun, tactical game that's very challenging and is it's very easy to play solo. No problem with the solo standpoint. Okay, that was number 7. Now, number 6 is one of my newest games, and I think it deserves this to be mentioned because it is a masterpiece, and that is the Seventh Citadel with kind of, I don't know, this isn't the greatest of box art, I'll give you that, but here we go. The Seventh Citadel. And the Seventh Citadel and the Seventh Continent are both very tactical games. However, the Seventh Continent, I would think, is, it's more of a survival game than the Seventh Citadel. The Seventh Citadel is very focused. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to accomplish whatever your goal is for a specific scenario and a specific threat. But how you do that is completely based on the cards that you encounter and the different choices you make. And so you can't necessarily say, I'm going to try this or that strategy at all. It's literally like, okay, I'm going to venture into this place, hope I can find what I need to find, make the best risk management decisions I can, and hope to survive in order to come back alive and win the scenario. It's extremely tactical, but it's very, very fun. And it's also very persistent. Like, there's a persistent campaign you play through. So it's a big investment. That one, it really stands out more than any of the other ones on this table because it's a huge investment in time, an investment in learning, an investment in money. And near the end, if you have a problem in near the last couple of scenarios or whatever, you can fail the whole campaign, so to speak, and it can knock you all the way back. You have to go to the beginning. So that's tough, okay? That could be very tough for some people. But I think that game really puts you on the edge of your seat. And that is a unique experience in board gaming sometimes where it's sort of like playing a legacy game without having to destroy your stuff, okay? Your content, I should say, your components, you don't destroy them. But just like a legacy game, if you have some really bad games, like you're just goofing up, bad choices, things didn't go your way, I mean, things can really get bad. So, and it can snowball on you and make things more difficult in the future. So the reason I like that game so much is because the exploration of it is really fun and it's tense. It's intense, really. It's very intense. You don't know exactly where you're supposed to go. It's like, I'm kind of going in this direction. I got to figure out, is that the right place? I could be going the completely wrong direction. I could be wasting tons of time and I might come back empty-handed. And if I come back empty-handed, I'm gonna have to pay the price for that. So I just think it's really cool. It's really cool what they did here. And I like it a lot. It is, again, very tactical, but very enjoyable to play. So that is my number 6. All right, number 5. Number 5 is a very unique game, I think, because it blends, no pun intended, its theme with its mechanics extremely well, and that is Distilled. Now, Distilled from a solo standpoint is, it makes you basically take this, I guess I would say it's a deck builder, market style game, so to speak, and puts you into a unique tactical puzzle every single time, because you put together this little pyramid of cards, like an inverted wedge, I suppose, of cards, or a diamond. And you have to be able to work these things out from bottom to top in order to win. And they're very specific, and you have to look at the whole thing as a big puzzle, but you can't see all the cards right away. So you start to flip some up, and so it changes things. You have to be very reactive and not kind of like hem yourself in. And the solo mode is so much better than just a beat your own score. A beat your own score would just really lack tension, I think, in this type of game, because it wouldn't give you any, you could just do whatever you want, and it would just kind of be willy-nilly. However, with the solo mode and those specific goals you have to accomplish to move on, it really focuses you to think, how am I going to accomplish X, then Y, then Z, and then not do something that's going to drive me, making it impossible to do some other spots. And they even have, like, I can't remember exactly how it works, but you can swap the location of two cars, I think, one time. So there is this like one-time use thing where you could say, I can move these around, and that might really make the difference between a win or a loss. Very fun game, great theme. The way you play it, you're literally putting ingredients together, shuffling them up, and then distilling off the top and the bottom, and what you are left with is what you're making from a liquor standpoint. And it's just really cool. It's a lot of fun, and it's also not hard to play solo at all. Okay, so that was number, what was that, 5. Okay, now, number 4, 3, 2, and 1, really tough at this point to sort out, because I think there is a big gap from what I've just talked to you about to these last 4 games. These last 4 games are going to stay in my collection and be regularly played for a very long time. And I'm going to put up my number 4 first. And this was a tough one between number 4 and 3, but I think this is another really new game to me, but it really inspired me to think about this concept of the tactical play, and really it does a fantastic job of that. And that is Inventions, Evolution of Ideas. This game, it basically pulls no punches. It tells you exactly that it is a tactical game. And it truly is. Every game, you are going to try to get the most possible actions you can to do the most of what you can to try to beat the bot. And you have to do it in a very, very specific way, staying out of your own way, trying to maximize the opportunities that you have on the board. The board is an evolving, changing mechanism with cards coming out that provide you different provide you different ways to accomplish your goals. The board state really dictates what you can and can't do, but it does not feel extremely constrained. There's lots of ways to skin the cat. However, there's absolutely a best way, but that is not easy to necessarily see. There are no obvious choices, I think, in that game. It is a really, really fun game to play. It can be done in just over an hour. The bot is easy to manage compared to some of the other Lacerda games that are out there. And in general, I think it's probably one of the more easy games, Lacerda games, to play with regards to how you actually play it. There are many different things you can do in the game, and they don't have nearly as many steps as some of the other games do. So it seems less procedural and much more tactical. I think it makes for an extremely fun game. Unfortunately, it's very pricey, but if you can get a copy and you have the bandwidth to do so, and you like tactical games, that one is outstanding. Now, my number 3, top 3 here. My number 3 is a game that just came out with another addition to itself, so to speak. And it provides, to me, one of the best deck building experiences I've had in forever. And that game is Imperium. And this one happens to be Imperium Horizons, which, if you look at Imperium Horizons, Classics, and Legends, this is probably the best one to get, I think, if you had to pick one. Not only just because it's the newest, but because it has the most content from a standpoint of gameplay options in there. But this is an awesome, awesome, awesome solo deck building game. Not solo. You can play it solo. You can play it multi-handed, etc. or multiplayer, of course. But it is just a really, really fun game. I don't think it's strategic because you are buying cards from a general display, and those cards, how they come up and whether you can get them or not, is very much what's going to dictate the type of experience you're going to have. When you sit down and pick one of the different factions that you're going to play with, there is clear understanding of what you're supposed to do to play that faction well. Not necessarily you have a clear understanding, but it'll tell you in the back, like, this is what you're kind of going to do with this. This is the cards. And what you ought to, it depends if you want to do it. If you want to freewheel it, just deal it out and see what happens. But you almost want to take a look at the deck, look at the cards, see what's in there, and then make a decision. Okay, I got to focus on these types of things. And that is a strategy for sure. But the way that all the other cards come into play and everything else, I think it's highly tactical. Either way, the game is awesome. And if you combine additional boxes, I've done reviews on this, by the way, too. I've done reviews on almost every one of these games. The only ones I haven't would be ones that were maybe too old before my channel, but I don't think any of those would be. I think I've got all these are new enough. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Really, really, really good tactical experience. And there's so much content. You can play, I think it's 8 factions or 16. I can't remember because I mixed them all together. There's a lot of combinations, and every one of them can be played against from a solo standpoint. They all feel very unique. The way the solo bot handles things, they're very unique. It's fairly well streamlined, but I'm not going to say it's easy. This game does take some time to understand. There's a learning curve. And once you do understand it, then it plays pretty quick, but it's still a pretty long game. The only thing I don't like about this game, and I'm stuck, there's no way you can deal with it, is the scoring. It is kind of a bear to score at the end. The cards, a lot of the cards are X points for such and such condition, which means you have to count all these things up and then figure out how much they're worth. And when you do that, you also have to do that for the solo bot. It takes some time. That is the only thing I don't like about this game. The rest of the game is super fun. It's just really good. It gives you lots of fun choices. There's lots of cool things you can do. The factions can be very different in how they play and what they try to do. It's just a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend checking it out if you like tactical games and you like deck building games. Okay, number 2. And I would have never known this was going to be my number 2 tactical game of all time. But I have just fallen in love with this game. And I got it because I enjoyed previous titles from this designer. But this one, to me, I just keep coming back to it. There's something about it that just makes it super fun to play, and that is Scholars of the South Tigris. This game, so Shem Phillips has done a bunch of games in this West Kingdom, North Kingdom, South Kingdom, etc. And a lot of them are very good. And I like Wayfarers, probably the second best out of all of them, although it's really hard to win solo. But Scholars is like leaps and bounds in my head, way above the rest. And I really couldn't put my finger on exactly why. And I think it is because of the tactical nature of the game, the tactical joy of the game. You are going to spend an awful lot of time trying to, based on the cards that are out and based on what you have in your dice and how they come up and everything else, pull off some amazing moves. I think it's really, really cool. You're going to be able to, every game you're basically bringing in the cards that are going to score for you. And then how you bring those in highly influences what you're going to do in the future. The cards come out fairly randomly, so you don't know what's going to happen. You can't say, I'm going to focus on this or that. Yeah, you can lean into certain strategies versus others. I shouldn't say a lot of them. I mean, I think basically in general, you kind of have to be really open to the best moves possible to score well. So it's not like you could ignore a part of the game or not. But it is just a very fun game. I've done a solo playthrough of it. I've done reviews of it. Check them out. If you like Shem Phillips games, I think that is the top. Just the top. And if Inventors of the South, I think it's Inventors of the South Tigris is better than that, and I'm going to be just completely blown away. Just completely blown away. But I love that game. It's super, super, super fun. Okay, finally, my number 1, my favorite tactical game in my collection right now that I've ever played, and I never see myself selling it, and I love it so much, is Nucleum. Nucleum, folks. Oh, this game right here. I've been a fan of Brass. I've been a fan of Age of Industry for a long, long time. Problem with Brass, the problem with Age of Industry is you can't play them solo. Nucleum, you can play solo. And that game scratches all sorts of itches that I have that Brass and Age of Industry that are related to that. Plus, this game is just better. Just plain and simple better. It is so cool. There's so much intricate combo action, good decisions to be made in this game, and it is 100% tactical because you can, I guess, lean into one thing or another, but the way that the tiles come out are going to drive what you're doing. The way that the board is evolving is going to drive what you're doing. The way that you're laying things down is going to drive what you're doing, and then also the goals that come out. It doesn't play the game for you, but you'll never be able to sit down and say, I know exactly what I'm going to try to do this time. You can try certain things. You can try to focus on one thing or another. But really, in order to play well, you're going to focus on all the scoring things that come up. And those are random every time. And then you're going to try to do it as best as possible, the most efficient way as possible, and outsmart the bot, who's very difficult, I think. But it is just such a fun game. If you haven't checked that one out, take a look at it. There's going to be expansion coming in the near future, I think this year. And I can't wait for more maps. I can't wait for more content. There's also a ton of stuff in here too, because each game you play, there's 4 different A, B, C, or D, like I would say packs you can play. They have different research tiles that are there. They have different starting tiles. And so depending on what you play, will definitely focus you on one thing or another. So it's kind of asymmetric players in that regard, but just so much fun to play. And once you understand how the bot plays as well, it is a very intuitive experience to kind of have that bot just keep taking the turns and be quick. I should say this, I got to back up one section. Scholars, it is a hard game to learn. And it's a hard bot to run until it all finally makes sense, but it does take some work. I didn't mention that about Scholars, but it is a tough game for whatever reason to wrap your mind around. And I think it's because the bot plays so differently than the way you play. And you just have it takes a lot of practice to get there. Nucleum, not so much. It's a very clever bot, but it's a little bit more straightforward in what it does. It takes a little less practice to figure out, but it also is just, again, a game where you I feel like the world is your oyster and you can kind of work on however you want to craft your tactics to win that game. So either way, those top 3 are really, really close in content as far as goodness. And I think probably however you rate them or however you rank some of these things will be personal preference, of course. And that's what these all are, right? This is hopefully an option for me, or an opportunity for me to share my favorite 10 tactical games. You probably have some that I missed, and I would love to hear about them. Also, if you haven't heard of some of these games or haven't played some of these games and you really like a tactical experience, then this gives you an opportunity to see what I think is a real strong offering from a solo standpoint there. So thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, everyone. And you know what I always say, whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.